In 1991, a group of salvage divers discovered this wreck at the bottom of the sea. They had no idea they were about to change history. 117, 117. That's not a U-boat number, though. Right here. What does it say? U-869. What they would uncover over the next several years would not only rewrite naval history, but also raise haunting new questions that have never been fully answered. When they finally breached its corroded hull and pushed their way inside, what the salvage divers found in the sunken Nazi German submarine left even hardened wreck hunters speechless. This is the astonishing true story of U-869, a ghost sub from World War II lost for decades in the cold, dark Atlantic, its fate shrouded in mystery. During the brutal years of the Second World War, the Atlantic was a graveyard where death could come without warning or mercy. German U-boats prowled the depths like silent predators, sinking thousands of Allied merchant ships with chilling precision. These submarines were Hitler's terror weapon at sea, aiming to sever Britain's supply lifelines, starve its people, and force the Allies to their knees. Of the hundreds of U-boats Germany launched during the war, most were destroyed in combat, some were captured, and a few simply vanished without a trace. Among the most baffling of these was U-869. Launched in 1943, U-869 was a Type IXC-40, one of the largest and longest-range subs built by the German Navy. Nearly 250 feet long with 6 torpedo tubes, it was designed to cross the Atlantic and hunt enemy shipping in distant waters. Its mission was simple: disrupt, destroy, and disappear. Under the command of Captain Helmut Nuremberg, a seasoned officer, U-869 set out in late 1944 as Germany's fortunes crumbled. According to surviving wartime records, it was ordered to the strategic choke point of Gibraltar, where Allied convoys funneled in and out of the Mediterranean. But by then, the German command was in chaos. Its once fearsome naval machine fractured by Allied bombing, encirclement, and an unraveling chain of command. Communications were garbled or lost entirely, and it's believed that U-869's mission may have changed en route without anyone realizing. On February 11, 1945, a U.S. destroyer and a Coast Guard cutter reported attacking and sinking an unidentified U-boat near Gibraltar. The Allies, basing their claims on timing and rough projections of U-boat movements, declared it a confirmed kill and chalked it up as U-869. The exhausted, defeated German Navy offered no contradiction. As far as official records were concerned, U-869 was sunk near Gibraltar, taking all 56 of its crew to the bottom with it, leaving behind no survivors, no distress calls, no evidence. Just one more line in the blood-soaked ledger of World War II. And so for decades, the story remained settled. It was a footnote in history, unexamined and accepted. But a closer look revealed troubling inconsistencies. No one had ever found a wreck near Gibraltar that matched U-869's dimensions. Wartime reports were notoriously unreliable, often relying on rushed, chaotic, or purely visual confirmation in the fog of battle. The Atlantic was vast and dangerous, the technology primitive, and mistakes were common. Furthermore, no surviving German documentation clearly stated U-869's final position. By 1945, German record-keeping was in shambles, with logs lost or destroyed, and the few that did survive were ambiguous. Some historians even began to doubt that U-869 had ever reached Gibraltar at all. There was another, even more chilling clue: radio silence. German U-boats were required to report their progress to receive new orders and avoid friendly fire. But U-869 was last heard from while still in the North Atlantic, thousands of miles from Gibraltar, after which it fell completely silent, as if swallowed by the ocean itself. For more than 40 years, U-869 was just a ghost story, a mystery buried in conflicting reports and fading wartime memories. Families of its crew had no wreck to mourn, no grave to visit, just a name on a memorial. Even experts disagreed. Military historians pointed to the supposed Gibraltar kill and insisted the case was closed. But divers, wreck hunters, and amateur sleuths were less sure. Then, in the summer of 1991, something extraordinary showed up on sonar off the coast of New Jersey. The North Atlantic off New Jersey's coast is a graveyard of steel, littered with wrecks from storms, collisions, and wars. For local divers, it's a playground and a puzzle. That summer, a team of experienced wreck divers, John Chatterton, Richie Kohler, and others, were scanning for unidentified wrecks using side-scan sonar. The waters there are notoriously perilous, freezing cold with strong currents, low visibility, and depths demanding advanced technical diving with careful gas mixes, decompression stops, and nerves of steel. About 60 miles off Point Pleasant, New Jersey, at a depth of 230 feet, their sonar revealed a long, narrow shape on the ocean floor. Torpedo-like, clearly artificial, and definitely old. Curiosity turned quickly to obsession. When they dove, they found the visibility terrible, with swirling sand, fishing nets draped like cobwebs over rusting steel, and a structure partly buried and cracked. It was unmistakably a submarine. But which one? There were no markings at first, no hull numbers, no plaques or flags. The conning tower was partly collapsed, the hull breached and corroded from decades underwater. It was a massive wreck in a place where no World War II submarine was supposed to be. Divers nicknamed it Yoo-hoo, a riddle that defied logic. No known World War II-era submarine had been lost anywhere near New Jersey. But there it was, silent and stubborn, daring them to solve its secret. The team kept returning, planning each dive with military precision despite the mortal risks. Inside the wreck, they found German gauges labeled in metric units, rusting valves and pipes, bits of equipment stamped with the Reichsadler, Eagle of the Third Reich. It was clearly German, but which boat? The breakthrough came with the discovery of a personal item, a small tarnished knife engraved with the name Horenberg. It wasn't a factory model number, but a man's name. Using wartime crew lists, the divers traced it to George Horenberg, a real sailor who had served aboard U-869. On later dives, they recovered valve manifolds and diesel engine parts with serial numbers that matched construction records from the German shipbuilder Deskamag AG Wieser, which had built U-869. After years of dangerous work and obsessive research, they had done it. In 1997, 6 years after the first dive, the United States Navy officially acknowledged that the wreck off New Jersey was indeed U-869. It was a seismic discovery. The submarine hadn't been lost near Gibraltar as officially recorded for half a century. Instead, it had died off the American East Coast, 3,000 miles from where history had placed it. This wasn't just a correction in the naval records. It was a revelation that forced historians to rethink the messy, confusing nature of wartime record-keeping and the hidden stories of ships that never made it home. The divers had solved a mystery no one else had even been looking for. Without any institutional backing, no military, no government, just a team of civilian divers risking their lives, they had located and identified the wreck and given the lost crew of U-869 a real grave. Wreck divers around the world held it up as one of the greatest underwater identifications ever made. But even as the Navy updated its records, the mystery deepened. How did U-869 end up off New Jersey? Wartime mission orders had it heading to Gibraltar. Did it receive new secret orders? Was there a catastrophic navigation error? Or had it gone rogue for reasons lost to history? No surviving logs offered a definitive answer. The crew's last radio message placed it in the North Atlantic. Then nothing, and everyone aboard had perished with the boat. One theory was that U-869 fell victim to its own torpedo, a chilling possibility. Some experts believe that after firing a torpedo, perhaps in testing or during a real attack, the weapon circled back and struck the sub. The wreck shows internal blast damage consistent with a torpedo detonation close to the hull, damage unlikely to have come from an enemy depth charge. Supporting this idea was the lack of any records of U-869 ever engaging an enemy ship in the area or scoring any hits. But that theory isn't airtight. Another says U-869 was sunk by 2 U.S. Navy ships, the USS Howard D. Crow and USS Coiner, which reportedly attacked and destroyed a submarine off New Jersey in February 1945. After the war, the Navy credited them with that kill. When the wreck was later found and identified as U-869, the Navy maintained that its depth charges had sunk it. But even that account raises questions. If U-869 wasn't expected to be on the American coast, why would it have been there at all? Had the German command lost track of it entirely? Was it attempting to lay mines, or attack shipping near New York in a last desperate act? Or had it been misdirected through the fog of a dying command structure? The truth may never be fully known. All that is certain is that the divers who found the wreck gave voice to a forgotten story, offering the families of those 56 lost sailors a place to mourn and correcting an error that had lasted half a century. Today, U-869 rests where it sank, its corroding hull a solemn tomb, the last witness to a mystery that will likely remain unsolved forever. And every time the cold Atlantic currents sweep over its broken steel, they whisper of the war's chaos, the lives lost to it, and the stubborn truth that even in history's dark corners, the past is never entirely buried. Despite the wreck's positive identification, U-869 remains one of the most haunting reminders of how elusive the truth can be in the fog of war. Its discovery did more than rewrite a line in naval history books. It exposed the limitations of wartime intelligence, the failures of communication in collapsing empires, and the remarkable perseverance of civilians driven by pure curiosity. For years, naval historians had treated the loss of U-869 as a closed case based largely on assumptions, misinterpreted sonar pings, and combat reports made under extreme duress. But those assumptions were never cross-checked with physical evidence, because no one thought to look. The divers who uncovered U-869's resting place didn't set out to solve a historical riddle. They were recreational wreck divers motivated by the thrill of discovery, not a quest for truth. But when faced with a mystery that shouldn't have existed, they did what generations of historians had not. They asked, what if the story we've always accepted is wrong? In the years that followed, the story of U-869 became a symbol within the wreck diving community, an epic tale of passion, risk, and obsession. The divers who explored it sacrificed much, enduring dangerous conditions, psychological strain, and even the loss of comrades. The treacherous depths around the sub were unforgiving. Decompression sickness was always a threat. Equipment failed. Visibility was often near zero. Still, they pressed on. The wreck became more than just twisted metal. It became a puzzle demanding resolution. Some divers described feeling a presence in the wreck, a heavy, reverent silence as they passed through its rusting corridors, peering into the decaying remnants of a war that had ended decades ago. Inside, boots still lay scattered. Dishes sat on tables, as if waiting for a crew that would never return. One diver recounted finding an officer's cap perfectly preserved, suspended in the stillness of a sealed compartment, an eerie, timeless reminder that this was not just a relic, but a grave. As the story spread, filmmakers and authors took notice. In 2000, the discovery was chronicled in Shadow Divers, a best-selling book by Robert Kurson, which brought the tale to a global audience and cemented U-869's place in modern maritime lore. The book did more than just recount a diving expedition. It painted a vivid portrait of the men who refused to accept official explanations, who were willing to risk their lives to uncover the truth. It portrayed the human cost of both war and obsession, and how history often hides in the most unlikely places. U-869 also served as a case study for how easily errors in documentation can become accepted truths, especially in the chaos of global conflict. It taught military archivists and historians to be cautious, to double-check assumptions, and to consider that what's known might actually be incomplete, distorted, or simply wrong. But even as the facts around U-869's final resting place became clear, the question of why it was there remains tantalizingly unsolved. Was the submarine's presence off the East Coast part of a last-ditch effort by the German Navy to bring the war to American shores? There were rumors, long dismissed as conspiracy, of Operation Seawolf, a secret late-war campaign in which a handful of U-boats were tasked with attacking American targets in 1945. Officially, the operation was ordered but never executed. Could U-869 have been part of it? Or did it simply receive conflicting orders that sent it to the wrong ocean? Without surviving orders, logs, or witnesses, we may never know. The theory of self-destruction remains plausible,